TG Geeks, episode 151, January 8th, 2018. ChuckChat.com. Hello and welcome to another webcast from tggeeks.com, where Ben and Keith, the Two Gay Geeks, talk about all aspects of geekdom and nerdery. Sci-fi, comics, film, horror genre, you name it, we talk about it. I'm Keith Lane. We're coming to you from TG Squared Studios in lovely Phoenix, Arizona.
And I'm Ben Raggington, also coming to you from... Yeah, it's 2018.
It is 2018.
Wow, Phoenix,
Yep.
Arizona.
Yep. And this time we're going to talk to Mr. Technorama himself, Chuck Tomasi. We thought that was appropriate after talking to Mike last week, so we're going to launch right in right now. And this time on the show, we have with us Mr. Chuck Tomasi, or Mr. Technorama, as we refer to him. And you've heard us talk all about him. He's been on the show a couple of times. But
he's hijacked our show from time to time.
But we've never really talked about who you are and how you got into podcasting. So welcome to the show, Chuck. And
well, thank you, guys.
We're going to be talking to you about... Tell us who you are.
I want to point out one tiny thing. If any of our regular listeners are hearing this and thinking, why does this sound different?
Well,
it's because we're doing it in Chuck's house.
We're up at Binary Studios.
And
I was thinking it's
home
a bit,
of Technorama.
bit reversed and surreal here with you interviewing me in my house.
I know, but there's something kind of really rather poetic about it, because when we were talking to Mike in our last episode,
yeah.
That came out on January 1. One of the things that we talked about is how Slice of Sci-Fi really birthed a number of podcasts, including TG Geeks.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if I would say that it birthed Technorama, but there's some kind of parallel running there for a little bit. I mean, there's some connectivity between Slice and the whole Technorama thing. So, given that
it's all
connected.
All connected. It's all connected.
Yeah,
it's all connected.
I'm saying Jack Mangan is the center of the universe.
It's possible.
But being that Slice is the one that kind of birthed us, and it enabled us to meet you.
Yeah.
It only makes sense for us to do it in Binary Studios now, I think.
Yeah. Formerly Draco Vista
Formerly
Studios.
Draco Vista.
Exactly.
Jeez, I don't even remember the name of it anymore.
And this is episode 151, and obviously, as we told you, episode 150 was with Mike Meningay.
Yeah.
And he's kind of the podfather, if you want, or the godfather of podcasting. And we thought, well, why not? He told us the history of podcasting, and because he was really in the early days of podcasting.
Yeah.
And
He predates podcasting.
He does.
right, exactly. So I thought it would be good, since you're still going and you have a very successful podcast, well, several podcasts. But
An image of a pink rabbit just went through my head. Boom, boom, boom.
Exactly. Just keep going. I thought, why not? And since you've done the co-written podcasting for dummies, I thought, well, why not? We've never talked to you. We've never interviewed you, because
especially as Keith is saying, I mean, we really haven't had a chance to talk to you about how you got into this whole craziness of podcasting and all that. I mean, obviously you've got a history, so I thought and people have heard us on. People have heard you on our show, and some of our listeners have jumped over to Technorama to hear us on your show.
Yeah.
So I figured, well, why not kind of get to the source of all that?
Yeah. So tell us who Chuck Tomasi is.
How much time you got?
Well, we don't have. Sometimes, just as long as you conclude it before the sun burns out, we'll be okay.
So I grew up in the Midwest. I was originally from Michigan, and I met my wife in college. We were both going for computer science degrees at Northern Michigan University. We got married. We moved to Wisconsin. We raised our family there. And while I was in Wisconsin, long about late 2004, I've been working in IT since pretty much high school. And I was listening to an internet radio show by a guy by the name of Ken Rakowski. He's still out there doing his show.
Wow.
Originally, it was on, this was before the days of Live 365. I can't even remember what it was called, but there was some Real Player. Remember the Real Player?
Yeah, right.
Real Player had like some channels on it, and one of them was called Tech Talk. And I was listening to Ken. At the time, he had a co-host named Jeff Yablon. That relationship fizzled, but Ken is still out there. And he mentioned, this must have been September, October of 2004. Real shortly after podcasting got its name, and didn't even have a name yet, but it got starting in late August. I know these dates because Dave Slusher, who was a friend and now coworker of mine, started the day after Adam Curry.
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of his claim to fame. He's like the second oldest, longest running podcaster in the world. But
wow.
So I was listening, and they happened to mention, I was listening to this as part of my job, doing the IT thing, listening to Tech Talk, keeping up on the industry news, and he said, those guys over at Engadget seem to have their thing together. They started a podcast. They sound a lot like us. And I went, podcast? What's this podcast of which you speak? So I don't even think Google was much of a thing back then, but I did some searching, and I looked on Engadget's site, and they said, here's how you can start listening.
You probably used Lycos, sir.
Alta Vista, something, I'm sure, Yahoo, whatever it was.
Exactly.
Or just went right to the Engadget site.
Exactly.
And I found an early podcatching client. I can't even remember what it was. I think it was a predecessor to iPod or X, because I had a Mac at the time.
Right.
And I downloaded a few shows. I listened to Kevin Devin's In the Trenches. I listened to Steve Holden doing Tech Rag Tearouts, I think was his show. Todd Cochran was doing Geek News Radio. No. Oh, he's going to kill me for this. Geek News Central. Oh,
Geek News Central.
The GNC letters, I had to put that in my mind because it stands for like 5 different things now in my head. But Geek News Central. And I was listening to this and said, I could do that.
Yeah.
I could do that easy. And I had a few pieces of electronics kicking around, but I didn't know anything. There was no iTunes back then.
Right.
If you wanted an RSS feed, you had to write it yourself. And I said, I wrote my own blogging software. I know how to write an RSS feed. If all I got to do is put this enclosure tag in there, I'm golden. So my first episodes were recorded on my Mac, but I was using the built-in microphone. And I was ninja casting. Now, yeah, pretty bad. Long way from where I'm sitting now. But
it sounds like you're in a cavern.
Now, for those who aren't familiar with the term ninja casting, that's when you're doing a podcast and your spouse doesn't know about it. You're hiding it from your significant other.
I've never heard of that before.
You never heard that?
No.
So I was doing that for a month and a half or so, and I was hosting out of my house because I had a NetBSD machine running Apache and
Right.
I think my Tomasi family whatever, some domain was hosted there, or I was using a reverse DNS thing, whatever it was, to let people find me. And then as the technology progressed, I did this for about 3 or 4 months, and I got hooked up with some really cool people, mainly the people I was listening to, Douglas E. Welch, and as I got going, I think in January, Kevin Devin reached out, and he said, I want to talk to other IT people as part of my interviewing series. And that's when I met Craig Stepp. We would get together and have a Saturday tech chat on his show. And a couple months later, I realized my one podcast, which was called Chuck Chat at the time, and it was still available at chuckchat.com. That's been my domain since the beginning. I said, I've got 2 personas in here. I've got the slice of life thing where I'm talking about my family and my projects at work and whatnot. And then I've got the technology side. And I said, I really need to come up with 2 shows. Do any of my listeners, which were probably all of 15 at the time, do any of them have...
Yeah, about as many as we have.
I've got 16 now. I said, does anybody have any ideas for shows? And Craig stepped up and he said, yeah, why don't you call your Slice of Life one Freestyle and call the other one Technorama? So
Wow.
Technorama was born in... Well, actually, I should go back. The Chuck Chat podcast was born in December of 2004, so I can honestly claim I was in that first early year of podcasting. And Technorama and Freestyle both launched in like May of 2005. I think May 1st was the birthday of Technorama. And I did that for about 6 weeks. It was a weekly or a bi-weekly, a twice-a-week show at the time. And I said, this isn't working with just me. And as much as I don't like morning talk radio shows, ironically, that's what it turned into.
Right.
I said, I need somebody to bounce ideas off. I need somebody to, and Craig stepped up to the plate, which made Kevin Devon a little, and I don't know what the word right, jealous, no, envious, no. There was some, not animosity, but he's like, dang, I was going to ask Craig to join my show. and a few weeks later, George Starcher joined his show.
Right.
And they did that for another few years. But Craig has been a wonderful creative influence on the show. I think I was online for maybe a couple of months, and he said, why are we still using your sucky old software?
Yeah.
The stuff that you wrote. Why don't you use WordPress? And, being sort of a tech curmudgeon that I am from time to time, like, because I
want to write it in BASIC.
It was in PHP at the time. And I said, I know the software. I know how it works. I know what features I want. He says, dude, all that stuff's already built and someone else is writing it. You just use it. And I flipped over to, I think it was WordPress 1.5 at the time.
My Lord.
And it worked.
We're at WordPress, what, 49 something?
No, I think 5 is on the, anyway.
It's 4.9.
4.9 and 5 is right around the corner.
But they may as well be 49.
Craig has always pushed me into the technological envelope as well. He's like, we need to do this, we need to do that. So fast forward, we've been doing Technorama, the same shtick. I mean, it's lived up to its true original mission statement, and that is just to have fun. Take those stories off the cutting room floor. I recognized there are a billion other sites that are doing Google, Microsoft, Apple News, and they're doing it very well. I'm never going to compete with CNET Buzz Out Loud. I'm never going to compete with Leo Laporte. Those guys have their audience. They know what they're doing. I'm going to take whatever's left.
Right.
And we get sometimes there are honest to goodness news stories in there with science and but there's also the weird and bizarre and oh my gosh, I can't believe this stuff.
You can't make this stuff
Speaking of which, did you see that Elon Musk he was poking the bear of the Flat Earth Society?
Oh no.
Yes. He said, why isn't there a flat Mars society? And
brilliant.
They came back. I can't remember the exact word. It says, well, it's been proven that Mars is a sphere.
And
it's like,
oh my God.
The irony of it all, and it just it devolved from there. Anyway.
Fast forward a couple of years, and actually it wasn't even a couple of years. It was that fall. We had the first podcaster meetup, the Podcast Expo in Ontario, California in late 2005. So this is like a year after podcasting was invented. We had an expo. We went there, met a lot more great people. So I'm finding this is a very vibrant community, very sharing. You play my promo, I'll play yours. We'll talk about each other because I listen to your show anyway. It's a lot of fun. And there was somebody starting, there were 2 publications, online publications, one called Podcast User Magazine, and I'm struggling to remember what the other one was. It was like Blogger and Podcaster or something like that. And I just started contributing for free, voluntarily writing articles for Podcast User Magazine. Here's how to make better sound in your studio. Here's the difference between these 2 microphones. And did that for about a year and a half. And went to I was speaking at Podcast Expo 2006. I went in 2007, and that was the last year it was in Ontario, California. Well, in 2005, 2 major events happened in the publishing industry. Todd Cochran released, through Wiley, a silver and green book about podcasting. He was, honest to goodness, the first podcasting book. It didn't receive rave reviews, and right on its heels, by about a month or 2, T. Morris and Evo Terra released Podcasting for Dummies. As you know, the Dummies brand is a very well-recognized brand.
Very well, yeah.
And
there's a for dummies for everything.
And it sold
making
fairly
tea
well.
for dummies.
But in the early days, the dynamics were changing very quickly.
Right.
And technology was quickly changing. It was very fast. And within 2 years, that book needed a refresh. There had also been a changing in dynamic of Evo and T and Mike Meningay, and Evo basically stepped back. I'm not going to get into the gory details or secondhand information in here, But he said, I'm done. And Wiley came to T and said, we need a rewrite of this book. And T said, I'm not rewriting it myself. He approached me at the Podcast Expo in 2007 and said, Chuck, I've seen some of your writing. Would you be willing to help with the book? And my head just about exploded.
Wow.
I went, this is unbelievable. It's that you share, I share. When you give, good things return.
Right.
And at first my elation went, wait, Chuck, back to the left brain. I've heard people losing marriages over writing books. I said, T, what's our schedule? Now we had been talking in like September of 2007. He said, we've got until March of 2008 to get this done. I said, that's easy. It's a rewrite. He said, there's probably 25% that needs to be touched up. I said, 25%?
Did it turn into 95%?
No.
Really?
This
Okay.
one was actually really easy. At the end, T had some personal commitments to address, and I had to push the ball across the finish line a little bit. So it worked out well. I did have to engage Evo one last time on a few things that he had originally written that needed refreshing, and he was happy to help out with that. There was no problem. I still talk with the guy. He's a wonderful person. I had no issues with him to this date, and thank him very much. So we got the book out on time, on delivery. I mean, we were done early with the raw work.
Right.
It was a hurry up and wait, because you got to do your first edit, then
Right.
you re-edit, so boom. But it came out. We went to the next Podcast Expo. They had moved it to Las Vegas, because I think that was on the start of merging with BloggerCon, but I don't think it was quite merged there. Unfortunately, we didn't have any books to sell at that conference. We had some sampler pamphlet handouts and it was like, that didn't quite cut it.
Yeah.
But it was still a wonderful
That's
conference.
a new definition of the light reading.
That was the last podcast expo that I went to. Period. Until we started PIY this last year. So years are going by, and the book is still selling. We're getting. I didn't get any commission checks until T calls me up in January of this year, 2017, and says, Chuck, I just got another commission check. I'm like, well, how come I don't get commission checks? Found out later is because I was brought in as a contractor and not as an original author on the second edition. And he's still receiving royalties from the first and second edition.
Good heavens.
So he said, and my commission checks are getting bigger. Now it's still like, went from $150 2 years ago to $250 this year. I went,
Wow.
okay, that's cool. He said, I reached out to Wiley and said, do you want to rewrite? Because it's obviously selling and this thing's now about 9 years old. They said, yes. Now I have to double down on my cards again and go, do I want to rewrite? And thinking about my day job, spring is a terrible time to start any project.
Wow.
So I said yes.
Of course you did.
Yep. Why not?
So we re-engaged and got her done on time, on delivery.
That's
and
amazing.
in about May of this year, we started thinking we should have some sort of workshop or not grandiose expo. That would be nice, but I had never planned an event like this in my life. So sure, why not? So we set a target date and we came up with this PIY, Podcast It Yourself. And people came out of the woodwork and I learned and had more communications with more new people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, Jack knows this guy, and this guy says hi to, and suddenly I've got the sessions filled up, all volunteer effort.
Yeah, and I remember when we were having the meetings, it's like, oh my God, we only got 17 people signed up. It was like 60 people or so.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
It was a lot of fun. It worked out very well. I thank everybody in the podcast community for stepping up and making this a success. We're looking at doing 2 in 2018.
Yay.
If you haven't heard yet, we'll be doing it East Coast in D.C., so T is going to set that up and run it. And now that we've done it, we know what the ingredients are.
Right.
And we've got a lot of the collateral already built.
Exactly.
And then we'll do it again in the fall in Phoenix. The hardest part is finding a venue.
Yeah.
And once you get that, the rest falls in place. So name badges and socialization.
All of that, yeah.
Everybody was so cool about it. Sometimes it hurt a little bit on the ego. Like, that webpage you got, it's good, but here's a few ways you can make it better. It's like, cool, that's what I want to hear.
Right, exactly.
So I've been in podcasting, and podcasting has been very good to me. It has given me
Podcasting has been very good to me.
Yes. It's had direct influence on my career. I was able to take the skills I know from podcasting, presenting the vocal intonation, pitch, power, and pace of what you say and how you say it.
That podcasting voice.
Yeah. I've done voiceover.
What is a podcasting voice?
When I got to my new job in 2010, I kicked out the idea. I said, hey, let's start a web series. And that's been going for 5 years now. All on the goodness and graces. It has turned into a wonderful marketing tool, touchstone for the developer community. And now they're giving me even more leeway that I'm in the marketing team. Like, I didn't go to school for marketing. How'd I end up here?
Right.
It's all related to podcasts. Even the job transition in 2010 when I was laid off. Actually, I was fired. I should say that. No, wait, what's worse? Fired. Fired means
fired
you did
is
something wrong.
worse.
Fired is worse. I was laid off. We had a reorg, and people
You were
from
riffed.
people from the community had been in my life for a couple of years preparing me for that moment, so it was a zero stressor. I had what I needed for resume and connections, and my contacts were backed up offline from my work. So when I turned in my work laptop, I just went, okay, yeah, let's move on. And in 3 weeks, I had a job offer.
Wow.
So people say, how'd you stay so cheerful? It's because first of all, if you're angry about everything, no one's going to want to talk to you.
That's right.
Yeah, if you're cheerful, you got a head start on everybody who's angry. Like, oh, they laid me off. I can't believe those. But it all comes back to podcasting. The house I'm in here in Phoenix.
Exactly.
You can't
It's
get
a podcasting house.
It's a podcasting house. The running joke here is, yep, it came with the house.
Exactly.
We watched a Green Bay Packers football game, and one of my buddies said, you have a cheese head? I said, yeah, it came with the house. Because Tim Adams
remember
used to
that.
come into
My God, that's right. It is over there.
it's in the coat closet now, but yeah, it's just so funny how many things come with this house. You guys effectively came with the house.
We came with the
The
house.
first time you walked into this house, you knew right where the cups were that you used from the old show. It's like, I didn't even know those cups were in that closet.
What? What are you doing getting in the closet like you don't own the place?
So it's been a wonderful journey. I can't tell you how excited I am to see where it leads in the future. Obviously, Technorama has not been the breakout hit that we had once hoped for, but it has been
consistent.
It's been a wonderful proving ground for a lot of things.
Oh yeah.
Comedic or technical or whatever.
Well, it's kind of helped our show as well as far as the way we structure things and the way we do some of the workflow.
That's just it.
And whatnot. It's like you learn from everybody else.
Right.
You do, and it's like I said, a wonderful community. So if you don't know or you don't have experience in that area, you just ask, and people are willing to step up and volunteer.
That's the one thing that I've really come to appreciate about the whole podcasting community is that it's not really competitive. It's only competitive you make it competitive in your head.
Yeah.
But it really is all about community. It's about sharing. It's about helping each other grow their own brand name, sharing each other's brand name. I mean, we're always looking for people. If you got a bumper that you want to share with us, we'll be happy to play it. We'll give you ours. And next thing you know, the internet is flying, going crazy with bumpers going back and forth because everybody wants to help each other's brand name grow like that. It really is an amazing community now.
And it's funny you mention that because there have been some changes along the way that I noticed, and I think that was one of the things you want to talk about is what sort of changes.
Right.
Having done this for now 13 years.
Well, you actually were doing somewhat of a podcast in your younger days in high school.
Was I? I was a DJ at a roller rink.
Right. I mean, it helped.
It helped get me used to my own voice.
Exactly.
Yes.
And to playing music and timing and
the program format.
Well, all of that is what led it. All of these are just steps. That bring you to this eventual destination.
Right. I like to think that whatever I'm doing today is a preparation for what I'm going to do tomorrow.
Yep.
It's worked well in my career. I don't always plan on where I'm going. I get lucky and go, okay, somebody wants me on their team. I'll consider it. Am I the right person? Why do you want me on your team? That kind of stuff. And that helped. You're right. Now that I think about it in retrospect, I hadn't thought about it this way before, but I was thinking more in, hey, I know my own voice. At first, nobody likes their own voice.
Right.
And some of that may even echo today, but it also, from a programming standpoint, there was a beginning, there was a break. When is a couple skate? When are we doing this special? And wrap up on time.
Exactly.
It's funny because now
we close at 9. We're locking the door at 9:01. Everybody has to be out
so we can get cleaned up and get out of here. Now I volunteer my time roughly every other weekend at church. Right. As an audio technician.
Right.
So I can give back to the community. I'm volunteering my time, but it's hard not to look at that as a program also.
Oh,
there is a certain time for
is.
this song. There's a certain time for this prayer. And it's getting pretty formulaic, but it works. And people rely on that consistency, whether it's in your podcast show. But other things that I've noticed have changed is you mentioned bumpers. There used to be, I felt there was more of I'm not using the term bumper quite right. Promos.
Yeah.
There was more of a community of swapping these promos than there is today.
Right.
That has tailed off.
That has dried off a bit.
As has the listener feedback.
You too?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're noticing that as well.
We don't.
We used to have a separate show.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes a half hour or an hour separate from the main Technorama show because we were getting so much feedback. We said, we don't want a half hour of our 45 to 50-minute content taken by, reading emails, which we love to get, or voicemails. So we broke off and probably had 100 or so shows of what we call the Technorama Network show. Because this is our network. This is the people we're talking to. That has really tailed off. I think.
It has for us as well. We're really surprised at that because in the beginning we were getting like lots and lots and lots of feedback.
I think a lot of people are just listening, and we find out all the time. It's like, oh yeah, I listened to that, that episode.
Yeah.
It's like,
lots of people
did.
Yeah,
I get people at work that come up to me and go, "Hey, you had that article a couple of weeks ago." I said, "I didn't even know you listen."
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, and well, that's one of the things that was talked about in at the workshop. And that is just because you're not getting feedback through the official channels doesn't mean you don't have the audience there. Right. I mean, our audience, we're only just now discovering how our audience is growing, yet based on the feedback, I think that people were running away.
It's weird. And I gave up looking at numbers anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll still do this show if there's 10 people listening.
Right.
Because, again, it's part of my growth strategy to try new things, experiment. Like I pointed out to you before we started the show, I've got 3 backdrops hanging from my ceiling, a white, black, and a green screen, and I never would have thought about that, but that feeds into the work stuff.
Well,
plus,
you're doing video as well, so I mean, it's a new
I just released
thing.
the Christmas special show.
The nerdiest things. We'll have to put that in the show notes for this episode too.
It was fun. It was inspired. It was. I quite literally woke up one morning on a business trip. I had to catch an early flight from San Jose back to Phoenix, and the tune was in my head, and about the first verse just came rolling out.
Oh, wow.
I didn't even think about it. I was just thinking about social media, and I went, my friends on Facebook and Snapchat and Twitter, photos on what rhymes with Twitter? Flickr. Photos on Instagram, cross-post to Flickr. And then I knew that I was going to be singing nerdiest things, so I need to rhyme everything with things.
Right.
Don't laugh.
And things.
So I went, new shows on Netflix released in the spring. Okay, I got the first verse. And I jotted it down in my notebook. And that verse hasn't changed. There's been a few other tweaks along the way. But and then this year, my mission was to put a video to that because certain elements just lend themselves really well.
Oh, watching you frustrated with rolling a 1 every time just made me laugh.
That was the last change that came about. I was about to release that a
How
week
many
earlier.
times did you have to roll to get a 1? How many takes?
I wish I had all those rolls saved up. It's like if anybody golfs, you go to the driving range and you're like, hey, I'm pretty good. Look how accurate my shots are. Then you get on the golf course and everything.
Anything but. You're going the opposite direction.
You couldn't roll a 1 to
This
save
is
your
what
life.
the D20 was doing to me. It was like 15, 17, 20, 12. Can I roll a 1? Man, I roll a 1 like 3 out of 4 times in a real game.
Exactly.
and then I'd get a 1 and it was slightly off camera. And then I'd roll for another 30 seconds. It was like, nope, roll, nope, roll, nope, roll. I picked that one up too fast.
Oh, no!
Roll, nope, roll. Oh, the light is reflecting. You can't even see it's a 1. Roll, roll. So on the first die, I think it took me about a minute and a half of just, and then I do the fist shake on camera. Oh, that was frustrating. And the second one was almost as long. The third one, I think I had it about 30 seconds. But yeah, that was fun. And that was the last change I made to that song. We are way off target here. So steer me back.
So much.
No. We love to go off on tangents.
The original chorus was the first one was, when the app dies, when there's dislikes, when I feel : left paren. I simply remember my nerdiest thing. Well, it's a sad face.
Oh my God.
It worked much better on video. And if you watch the video, there's a little tiny, like 1 frame of that thing that's snuck out.
You say cool, I'm thinking, body function?
No.
What? What are you talking about here?
I simply remember my nerdiest things, and then I don't feel so -10. So that was the rhyme. Okay, but at the last minute, I went, that just doesn't roll off the tongue. What is very frustrating that makes you mad? Rolling a 1. That's it. When I roll a 1, I simply remember my nerdiest things, and then I can have more fun.
Yeah,
okay, that works better. And then I had to roll all those D20s to get the ones. And then,
not so much fun there.
No. And then put together this progressive series, because it says it 3 times, once in the middle and 2 at the end. So the first one, I'm like, oh, not again. The second one is, and the third one, there's blood splattering. Which, if you play, any RPG games, 1 is a critical. And you roll for crit, and apparently I rolled a 1 twice.
Well, that's I was going to say, you said things that have changed and things that you do in your show, and you do a lot of little shtick stuff, and little things that are
in things,
what am I trying to say?
What changes have we made to the show?
No. Gosh. Oh, I lost my mind.
Experimentation?
No, just the little
creative
the vignettes that you do.
Like your comedy bits and
stuff.
Yeah,
we do those. We usually they're more for special occasions, like we'll do a live show at Dragon Con. That's another thing that we've been carrying on since the beginning. In the early days, in 2005, when we first got together, we said, hey, let's do a live show. And it was 3 or 4 people in our hotel room. We brought a mic, we brought a little mixer, and we recorded. And we had fun with that. And we carried that on. And in 2007, I think it was, we actually got some stage time. Oh, it was 2007, because that was the year we went to the Computer History Museum in Mountain View. Craig and I stopped off in San Francisco before driving down to Ontario. And we got this wonderful tour. We like to do audio tours. We like to talk to people when we're on site. When I have a microphone in hand, I have no problems with confidence and asking questions and feeling like, hey, suddenly I'm not nobody. I'm honing my craft. Another thing that you want
with your podcaster voice.
With my podcaster voice. That's right. Yeah. So we Stan Sealer, who was the docent there, still is, did a wonderful tour, and afterwards we said, could we just roam around for a while? I noticed certain things on this tour that just weren't quite up to snuff, or that had some comic element to them. So we did this whole ad hoc thing going around and say, this hard drive was made in the 1960s. It held a whopping 2 megabytes. And they were so sensitive that if you sneezed, the head would crash. And I noticed that it was missing one of the casters, and it's leaning off to the side. I said, that couldn't have anything to do with it, could it?
No, not at all.
And we just went around and we made fun of these things. Remember the first digital watches were really huge?
Yeah, I had one.
Size of a hockey puck on your wrist.
Right.
And some of the elements didn't come out right, like the audio. There was too much fan noise, so we dubbed over it like a bad Japanese movie. It was just pure fun. We played that, and at 2007 at the Podcast Expo, people loved it. Yeah. It was so nerdy and fun that we like to do things like that as just sort of Yeah, I'm not a stand-up comic. But I like to entertain when possible. Like the video I came out with at Christmas. So,
Yeah.
it's fun. I know who I'm talking to. I'm talking to a bunch of nerds. Why not?
Well, you spurred me on to do the Star Tours Fun Unlimited.
Oh my God.
I inspired that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, because of some of the things that you do on the show and some of the things that were on Slice of Sci-Fi and
They had a lot of them.
Oh, my
A lot
God.
of listener contributed
Oh, my
stuff
God.
on that show.
The Sweet Leaf.
Sweet
Oh, my God.
Leaf, Multiverse Universe.
Oh, geez,
Lots of bits.
And
I was a
that's-
bit envious at the size of the listenership and the contributions they would make.
I know,
Yeah,
oh
we're
my
still
God.
we still want to get Sweet Leaf back, but he's got some really weird ideas.
So yeah, but that was it. Just kind of came out of me, and there it was. So
Something else that's very, very different, and I don't know if a lot of podcasters recognize this, but if you do get an opportunity to do a live show, consider your content, consider the audience, because not everything done in a studio
It doesn't
translates to live.
Yeah.
And we learned that along the way too, that just doing our standard Technorama doesn't always work. We got to put in special elements. We do a live show. We've been lucky enough to do a live show every year we've gone to Dragon Con since 2009.
Didn't you actually attend a live podcast type show at Phoenix Comic Con a couple
Yes,
years ago? And it was a train wreck.
Bombed. It was. I don't even remember the name of it, but it had podcast in the title, and I went to watch it, and it just was not. It was painful to watch.
Yeah.
So and even more challenging is when you team up with another show like we've done with Comedy Forecast, which is highly scripted, and we are highly not scripted.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting dynamic there.
It's like,
But
would you stay on the script, please?
we already have our comedy element, our video element for next year. Key to doing a live show is engage the audience whenever possible. We found the more we can get, even our modest, if it's 12 people in our room, we're happy.
Right.
If it's 25, we're even
You
greater.
had a pretty good crowd this year. I watched it on Facebook.
Yeah, we had a pretty good audience this year. I think
Yeah.
this was one of our larger ones. Sans the Podcast Expo in 07, I think we had a bigger audience there. But anyway, the more you can engage them, little contests like, hey, let's name the geek.
Right.
Put the slide up. That was something that went back to 07 that we stole and brought back. Next year, we're going to have a photo contest called Cosplay or Walmart. Been to the website, People of Walmart.
This is going to be fun.
We were finishing up Dragon Con 2017, and I noticed, I'm looking around going, that costume could be walking down the middle of Walmart and no one would bat an eyelash.
Exactly.
And it dawned on me, these flashes of insight. I don't get them often, but I do love them when they do latch on. So it's been a lot of fun. It just is, and like I said, I'll keep doing this if there's 10 people listening to Technorama, and I will keep taking what I learn from podcast experience and employing this worthwhile investment that I have into my day job, and they find it valuable.
Yeah.
I have fun. What could be better than that?
No kidding.
I think that's really the key is if you're continuing to enjoy what you're doing, then why stop it?
Yeah.
Well, your spouse has to support you as well.
That's true. Okay, so now I'm glad you brought that up because you were talking a little bit about the Ninja Cast.
Yes.
Okay, how did Donna learn about all of this?
I'm not really sure. I'm trying to remember. I think I just kind of came out with it and said, "Hey,
I'm a closet podcaster."
I mentioned something about wanting to upgrade my software or something, or I wanted to buy hosting at that time, so I wanted to get the official domain name and whatnot. And she said, "Okay, how much is it going to cost?" And like
what's causing this?
Any good
interest?
Significant other, she did the daily diligence and said, how much is it going to cost? What's it going to take? What's the benefit? And at the time, I really had no direction or benefit. I was like, I'm having fun. This is my hobby.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to do now as my thing. And the fact that it led into so many benefits, books, career moves, house in Phoenix. It's like, you can't count on that in the beginning stages. Do it because it's fun.
Right.
And if it's not fun anymore, you don't necessarily need to stop. but take a break.
Yeah.
We did take a year off. It was like March 2008 to
Wow.
2009. We took a
A
year
whole
off.
year?
Yeah.
Wow.
We did like 1 or 2 interviews in there between, but it was because of family.
Yeah.
My daughters wanted to have some more time, and they were not really endorsing. Well, one of them in particular. The other would make appearances on the show from time to time, but the other, I found a note years later, it buried in a folder in a Word document that said, "Daddy, don't podcast."
Oh
dear.
Yeah.
Owie.
So I wish it was that direct in real life, in real time, that I didn't
Right.
find this afterwards. So I didn't realize what an impact it was having on them, because it's not. Our show is not one that you can just sit down and start chatting. There is some pre-show prep.
Oh, yeah.
Don't we know?
Yeah. And not all podcasts are like that. Some
Some are just freeform. You just go and do it. And,
Right. You can jot down notes on a cocktail napkin and talk for an hour.
Yep.
Everybody's different in how they do
Exactly.
their show prep and what the final product is. Some are highly scripted and highly produced. Others. So there's no significant. There's no definitive recipe for
Right.
what your show must be.
whatever is comfortable for you and makes you not stress.
At one point,
think
I was
whatever
doing
you have fun with.
3 or 4 or 5 shows at one point. I think it was 2010, and every one of them had a different process. So it's again, if it's not having fun, don't necessarily stop, but
Right.
take a break. Let your listeners know. Keep them informed, and say, hey, I've been doing this for a couple of years. I need to take a break for personal reasons, but stay subscribed. You'll get the new shows when they come out.
We that's why we're doing this. We're actually doing this interview a month before it will air. Actually, more than a month.
Hope you had a nice Christmas, everyone.
Yeah, exactly. So, because we want to take some time off in December and over the holiday break, and we put a bunch of interviews in the can and produce them and release them so that we can take that break.
Yeah, but Slice,
But
I know,
still continue to
still have content out there.
Content.
But I've heard of other podcasts that have actually literally just stopped, not to quit, but to take that break for whatever reason. I know Slice did that for a time. Although actually, I think they were recirculating older episodes
And I
during
know
their time off.
that's another possibility.
Yep.
Craig has thought about throwing classic Technorama episodes into the feed every once in a while.
Yeah.
Just, it's fun to see what the
Oh my God!
change has
Raisin
been.
things.
Right. Raisin
Oh,
things.
we're going back even further than that. I mean, when was Lenny conceived? That's just came out wrong entirely.
Okay.
Yeah.
When was his first appearance on the show?
Lenny eyes are all-
I know how his character came to be, but I don't remember the first instance where we actually heard Lenny. So we've got some voice characters which don't really translate into video all that well.
Right.
But it's fun to see the evolution over time,
Right.
Because you want to make tweaks, you want to adjust. There's going to be things that you feel are working or are not working, or maybe we switch the order of this. I mean, we used to have On This Day in History. It used to be called On This Day in Tech History. And then later in the show, we would have the listener birthdays. I said, well, we're already announcing birthdays. Why don't we just throw them into the same segment?
Right.
And,
Right.
Continuity. You'll find
Yeah,
things.
we do the birthdays, and that's where most of our comedy comes in, because I go down and I'll specifically choose certain names to talk about. And we were talking about this on the way over here, that if we have a connection with it, or we know something about it, or whatever,
Exactly.
Because we're
throw that
old
in there.
farts.
You can talk to it.
Exactly.
There are actors and actresses that I don't recognize them by name, but you know what? When they come up in a year later and I go, oh,
Yeah.
how did I not see that last year?
Exactly. I know. It's like you said something about Elvis's birthday. I thought, I didn't run across it. Well, I haven't done that yet. I haven't done that episode yet.
Wow, talk about time shift.
Yeah.
Or have you?
Or have I? Exactly.
It might be on this episode.
Exactly.
We've
I
got,
think it
we've got
is, as a matter
really
of
timey-wimey here.
That's the fun thing about doing the podcasting, and that's what we enjoy. I mean, I've certainly become more of a talker on the podcast from the early days of ours.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of can be the straight man, if you will.
No.
No, we're the Two Gay Geeks.
Wait a minute. Just gonna go there. I was hoping you didn't say that.
No.
There are no straight men on TG Geeks.
No, not the straight man. I will be the less comedic guy.
There you go.
But never the straight man.
Anyway, is that, and as you said, there's a lot of work. I put a lot of work into each episode in preparing,
Yep.
And we do for interviews. We prepare for interviews. We sometimes have to watch a movie or a film or read a book or whatever. So there's a lot of work that goes into it, but we enjoy it.
Exactly. Craig pointed out an article on Reddit not too long ago that made this general statement that said, if you're taking X number of hours to produce your show, I think it was like 4. It says, then you're an amateur. If you're doing it in 20 hours, you're a professional. And I said, I'm calling
shenanigans.
Yeah, he put it right in there. He said, that's shenanigans. There is no formula for this.
No.
I mean, there are some people that,
it depends on what you're producing. What was this person producing?
Exactly. Are they reading a book? That may take a long time because you got to get the voice right. You got to get the transitions. You might have multiple actors in there. Or are they sitting down and reading the news off of a website, like we do?
Hey,
No, but you got to research to find those stories.
Yeah, you got to find those weird stories, and you got to find the raisin things, and
those moments just happen.
They will never go
just
away.
Every podcast, I hope every podcast has at least one of those that they can reflect on and makes them smile.
We have every once in a while, somebody posted. I read a comment on I don't know whether it was iTunes or whatever, and somebody said they don't laugh at their own jokes or their own inside jokes. Well, sometimes we do, but we always explain what that inside joke is when we laugh about it too. So, but
what have we not? What have we left unexplored? Or
the one thing that I was going to say that, and we kind of touched on this a little bit. One of the neat things about podcasts and the way that it is opened up the world is because of that. I mean, yeah, we're doing this because we want to have fun with it, and we want to talk about the things that we really like to geek out on.
Yeah.
But some of the people that we've met,
the social network aspect
has been just freaking unbelievable, and it has opened up doors in places I never thought possible. I mean, and we mentioned this on our show, and I think we touched upon it once on Technorama, but I never, in all my years, actually expected to be on the RSVP list for a private studio pictures party.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Wow,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it happened, and a lot of things, just weird stuff, people that you run into or that follow you or whatever, it's just, wow, it's amazing.
Being able to interview Gareth David Lloyd. I mean, wow. I'm talking to a major actor from Torchwood.
Yep.
I'm holding a microphone and I'm asking questions. He's giving answers. We're taking photos. I'm like, when did this all of a sudden become possible? I mean, it's amazing what podcasts can really do.
Some people that are pretty up there. And we on Slice we talked to a lot of
number of people.
They've been around forever and ever.
Good contacts.
Yeah,
good contacts there. The other fun part is more extrovertive than introvertive. Is I'm talking to so and so, but it's when people start viewing you as the celebrity.
I know
that blows me away.
That happened to us. I was thinking a couple of years ago. We at our Horrible Imaginings Film Festival. We actually got to present one of the feature films for the LGBT block. Mm-hmm. We're on the stage, we're talking about the movie, and all of a sudden, after the movie's over, we're out front. They had a little bit of a red carpet stand, a picture and everything. So we're going to get our photos taken with a couple of, with some people there. And this guy, who I saw from the year before, he's what I call him, he is the photo bomber.
The super fan.
He's a super fan. If you're on stage,
show.
No,
everybody.
Anybody who had anything to do with a film festival, if there was a photo op, he had to photo bomb it. He had to get in there. So
here we are,
like my job
out there, and
all of a sudden he wants to be photoed with us, and all we did was stand on the stage and talk about this upcoming movie that we're going to be seeing.
Yeah, so we were kind of the celebrity. So
yeah, we had a celebrity moment. It was really, it was truly far out. It was not something I expected to happen.
So those are some of the fun moments. So
yeah. When this first happened to Craig and me, when we went to Paramount Farms, they make a pistachio. There's a pistachio farms in.
I didn't know Paramount had farms.
Yeah.
The pistachios?
Yeah, the pistachios.
Pistachios.
Chios? I can't remember. And we got there, and Will Shattuck, who was their IT guy there.
This is driving me crazy.
About geeked out when we stepped out of the car, like we were royalty or something. Can I carry your bag for you? Oh, I'm so excited that you're like, Will, I'm an IT guy. Craig's an IT guy. You're an IT guy. We're all among friends here. Calm down a bit.
I'm just hold on. I'm just kind of flummoxed on that. Paramount Studios has William Shatner. Paramount Farms has William Shattuck.
Same person?
You never know.
They've been seen in the same room together.
Yeah.
So a few years later, I'm on a business trip in the UK. This was 2013, and one of our listeners calls himself Luke Platypus. Drives down from Birmingham to London. That's like a 2-hour drive.
Yeah.
Just so we can have dinner together.
Oh my gosh.
Like, these are the coolest people in the world.
Yep.
I just the fact that they do that is mind blowing.
Yeah.
And it was fun to see the reverse happen when I started my series at work in 2013, and we have our annual conference every year. I started with a guy named Andrew Kincaid, who's now one of our developers. We were teammates. And we started the Tech Now series. And we go to Knowledge, our conference, and people are coming up. They go, I love your videos. And he is not used to this celebrity thing. And it was so fun to watch him just get uncomfortable.
Yeah. I mean, I've handed cards to people or told people about, I know you guys. It's like, oh, you do?
You do?
How do you know that?
It's freakish whenever that kind of thing happens. I mean, I remember when we did the podcast seminar at San Diego Comic-Con. Yeah. And they're going down the table, and all of a sudden they introduce Keith of TG Geeks, and I swear to God, that was the loudest applause in the room. It blew me away.
That's when you feel really welcomed when they do that. We were nominated for a Parsec Award in 2007. That was only the second year of Parsecs.
Yeah.
I think there was a technology category back then, and I wasn't there. But we listened to the audio playback later, and when they announced the finalists and Technorama came over, there's this huge applause. We're not even there. And I went, we have listeners.
Exactly.
We have a community.
Exactly.
And I did not expect that. I expected like one guy in the back. With the sarcastic clap.
Right.
Or even the crickets. Right?
Yeah. Where's my crickets? I lost. There we are.
Another one of my hidden talents.
Yeah. So
okay. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation. It's really been awesome. So, and we've talked about Technorama. We've run your bumpers on our show, promos numerous times.
Thank you.
Yes.
And we talk about you all the time. But for anybody who's listened to the show who wants to learn more about you, learn more about Technorama, what kind of social media presence do you have on the Facebooks, Twitters, Intertubes, anything like that?
I'm sorry, I get this memo from GoDaddy every year that says, would you like the privacy filter? Like, I'm way beyond that. If people can't find me, they're not looking. But my home base is chucktomasi.com, Tomasi. You can find the podcast at chuckchat.com. And if you just look for Chuck Tomasi on Facebook, YouTube, Google it.
Yeah.
You'll find it.
Yeah.
Technorama is a fun one. I always get a kick out of this because if you search for Technorama on Google, you will either get our podcast at the top of the list or the Technorama Swiss Science Center in Switzerland.
Yes, you have a photo of that.
I actually have an interview that I never aired. I was at Technorama, so I did a Technorama at Technorama audio interview with one of the docents there.
Yeah, did you say you lost that? Or
no, I have it. there's some narration I never finished because I was going to do part of the interview, then part of the narration, like the historical stuff out of the pamphlets, then part of the narration, and I never finished producing it. What I should just do is put down the 15-minute interview and be done with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a handful of segments from the past that never made it to hard drive.
So, well, thank you, Chuck Tomasi.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Technorama himself.
It was tons of fun.
Yeah, for being on the show.
It was. Thank you. This is Chuck Tomasi, author of Podcasting for Dummies and host of Technorama, the podcast for geeks. And you are listening to the Two Gay Geeks, because geek is better than cool.
And here's a few selected birthdays for January 8th through January 14th, 2018. January 8th, Mr. Bob Eubanks was was he dating game? Wasn't he dating game? He was
Newlywed Game.
Newlywed Game. He was all among other things.
Yeah,
but that was the big one. Newlywed Game. Miss Shirley Bassey, Diamonds Are Forever.
Oh, of course.
William Hartnell,
the original
Doctor, and Mr. David Bowie, Stephen Hawking, Elvis Presley, Jose Ferrer, yes, Graham Chapman, and good friend of ours, Mr. Tanner Chavez.
He's 18.
Happy birthday, Tanner. He's 18. Oh, my gosh.
Watch out.
Yep. January 9th, Mr. Bob Denver.
No, he's John Denver's brother. It's a
fact. It's a fact. January 10th, Mr. Ray Bolger from Wizard of Oz.
Yep.
Pat Benatar, Jermaine Clement, and Roy E. Disney. January 11th, Alexander Hamilton. Isn't there a musical?
I think there is.
Yeah,
I think he wrote it.
Yes, he did. I think
that's why he named it after himself. It's a fact.
January 12th, Mr. Howard Stern, who, if it weren't for Howard, we wouldn't have Sirius XM radio.
That's true. That is true.
Also on January 12th, Mr. John Lasseter, Jeff Bezos, and friend of the show, Tommy Cannon, and Sylvain Gerard, who is a friend of ours that we met at Phoenix
French filmmaker that we met at Phoenix Comic-Con.
Yes. January 13th, Mr. Patrick Dempsey, Gwen Verdon, and local Phoenix author, Beth Cato. Happy birthday, Beth. January 14th, Faye Dunaway, Grant Gustin, and friend of ours, Mr. Anthony Ecclesi. He was the second AD, I believe, or assistant director, producer on Morning After. And Mr. Jack Mangan, who somebody said that the whole podcasting world revolves around Jack. So happy birthday, Jack.
Okay, if they say so.
And that's it for the birthdays this time.
It's been almost 10 years. Have you missed us? Do you want to do a podcast, Serena? Okay. Podcasting for Dummies, the companion podcast with T. Morris and Chuck Tomasi, takes you beyond the pages of Podcasting for Dummies from Wiley Publishing. From product reviews to best practices to what's playing in the podosphere, you'll find it here. So subscribe at iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Podcasting for Dummies, the companion podcast. Give us 15 minutes, and we'll give you something to think about. Podcastingfordummies.com.
Go give a listen to our friend T. Morris and Chuck Tomasi over at podcastingfordummies.com. And we're not going to have any feedback this time. We have to play the music, right?
If we must.
Or are we just going to scratch it out?
Let's just scratch it out.
Just scratch it out. Okay. We're saving up our feedback for a feedback-a-palooza later on here in January.
So please, we need the feedback in order to have the palooza.
Please, we want to do a palooza. Appalooza. Appalooza. Or feedback, whatever.
Appalooza.
Appalooza. We want to do
can't have
Appalooza.
the Appalooza without without the feedback.
Yeah. So if you want to leave us feedback, you can do that on each of our episodes at the bottom in the comment section or at the bottom of each article. It doesn't matter what your feedback is about. If you want to just send us a note on the contact us page and say what you like or don't like about the show, we'd be glad to hear it. And you can do that also on our Facebook page. You can do it on Twitter, or you can even call us on our listener line at 469-TG Geeks. And we'll play it on air. That's 469-844-3357. And remember, as always, please play nice.
Yeah, baby. They're like two gay geeks. They're together, you know. They're two gay guys and they're geeks. Is that okay?
I guess that means no second segment.
No second segment. But did you want to say something?
Only that, how awesome it is that, again, this all kind of stems from our relationship with Mike.
Yeah.
Because it was through our involvement with Slice of Sci-Fi that we got to meet Chuck. And that relationship carried over, and as you heard in the interview, I mean, when Chuck got Mike's house, he got us as well, among other things.
Among other things, our cups and everything else.
He didn't know our cups were in the cabinet. He had no idea.
Yeah, so it's really great, and we like Chuck, and we love to go and hijack his show because we don't have to do anything. We don't have to do any production or anything.
He pays us back.
You know,
he so pays us back every time we're doing like one of our in hotel room studio shows from Phoenix Comic-Con, and he's there at the table. Yeah, we know that karma will be rearing its ugly head.
Well, it's not ugly.
But it's tons of fun for him.
A lot of fun, yeah.
Because he doesn't have to do anything.
Exactly. He can just be on the show and just be himself.
But I think he likes it when we hijack.
Yeah. It always adds something new to the show. And as always, we have our feedback item or our follow-up items. Check out our calendar on the website. If you have something that you feel should be on the calendar, we'll glad to put it on there. Send us a note, and we'll announce it in the appropriate episode. Phoenix Comic-Con returns to the Convention Center May 24th through 27th, 2018. It's just a few months away. And Arizona Opera presents Candide, Leonard Bernstein's opera featuring the famed Glitter and Be Gay. This production is part of the worldwide celebration of Bernstein's 100th anniversary. They will be performing Candide in Tucson, January 27th and 28th, and Phoenix, February 2nd through the 4th. Tickets are still available at azopera.org. And as you heard, check out the third edition of Podcasting for Dummies, written by T. Morris and Chuck Tomasi. Go to podcastingfordummies.com. Always a shout out to GoDaddy. Thank you for being our web hosting provider. And we are huge supporters of independent creators, whether it's filmmakers, comic book artists, writers, etc. Please consider supporting them. There is a lot of talent out there. If you find somebody that's trying to raise money for a project or doing a crowdfunding campaign, please consider giving them some money. You might be part of something big. You never know. And consider supporting independent creators.
Special shout out to Doctor Who Talking Who on Twitter for publishing the Doctor Who Fancast Guide. You can find them by going to Twitter, searching @Talking Who. Also, equally special shout out thanks to the Human Arkle for publishing the Arkle Times Post Dispatch News that also republishes much of our own content.
Did you say he's the shout-out themes?
Yeah, the shout-out theme. Yeah, the shout-out themes. Yes.
The house.
Shout-out. Yes. The house publisher.
There we go.
Yeah. The house publisher. Better known as Arkle, A-R-K-L-E, also known as Brian Weber, who is also on Tumblr, who publishes the Incorrect Star Trek Voyager quotes. Check that out when you have a chance. Just make sure to not do it while you're at your job.
They're not X-rated. They're just a little bawdy
but
sometimes.
They're naughty.
And of course,
naughty in terms of, they're right. They're bawdy. And, in today's work environment, when you're at a workstation, they don't like you to be looking at non-work related material. Yeah. Hence, don't do it while you're at work.
Hence. Those hens.
Yeah. It's those. Yeah.
I don't have a.
You don't have a chicken sound?
I do have. Where is it? Where's
searching.
No, not that.
A canary?
Not the canary. Where is the dang thing? Oh,
you lost your ding?
I've lost my thing.
You've lost your thing.
Anyway.
Wow.
Moving right along, we want to give a shout out to Looky Show on YouTube. Check out their show. It is a rather unique and interesting way of doing movie reviews. So check out Looky Show on YouTube.
And as always, a special shout out to the Facebook group, The Gay Geek, for allowing us to post our episodes on their page. Their URL is facebook.com/group/The Gay Geek. They really have the most amazing content and the most amazing people, and they have the most amazing moderator. His name is Jeremiah Reeves. Thank you, Jeremiah, for allowing us to share our content there.
Yes, thanks, Jeremiah. And we always want to remind you to click on our Amazon ads. If you see something that you like, go ahead and click on the ad. It doesn't cost anything. We've got lots of widgets on the side for stuff that people that we know that they're selling books and or whatever. And we have search ads at the bottom of each article and each webcast episode. If you want to find something, use one of our search ads and we'll get a little bit of a kickback. And lastly, check us out on iHeartRadio and Stitcher and YouTube and, every place. We are everywhere.
We hope to be everywhere.
Yeah, we hope to be everywhere. Review us on iTunes, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we will thank you forever. Well, up next time, who knows, considering we're recording this in early December.
It might be the feedback-a-palooza, but hey,
yeah,
that depends on all of you. So please give us feedback, and the more feedback we have from all of you, the better the feedback-a-palooza.
Absolutely. Okay, that should do it for this episode of TG Geeks Webcast. Be sure to check out the article for this webcast episode. We're going to have a couple of links on the page. And remember, you can comment on our Facebook page or our website, tggeeks.com, or you can leave us a voicemail at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357. From TG Squared Studios, I'm Keith Lane. Thanks for listening. I bid you peace.
Cheers.